Okay, hello there. Welcome once again to another lesson on this platform. This is Wisdom, your host, and I am excited to have you. Today, we want to look briefly at how we can manage our stress using one of the major approaches when it comes to psychology and psychotherapy. And this is the cognitive behavior therapy approach. And this CBT techniques or CBT approaches are very helpful for a wide range of mental health issues, including stress, anxiety, depression, and a host of others. So we want to look at some basic techniques that are informed by the cognitive behavior therapy and how in our everyday engagements we can apply them. They may be things that you are doing or things that you have thought of, and I hope that they would help even as we go through them. Would look at what CBT is generally, and then we'll zoom into three key techniques that can be helpful in managing your stress levels personally. Okay. Okay, so we are good to go. So when we talk about cognitive behavior therapy, cognitive behavior therapy is a series of techniques that focus on how we can work on our thoughts and our cognitions in order to help us overcome our mental health issues. So basically, CBT techniques are focused on changing cognition so that having changed cognition and changing the person's some behaviors that we put up here and there that result in our problems, changing those cognitions and those behaviors will end up helping us to feel better. And the whole process of CBT is depicted in this diagram. So with CBT techniques, the idea is that our thoughts or our cognitions, what we think, how we interpret situations, so our thought patterns, our thoughts processes influence our feeling. So how we feel, our emotions, are informed by our thoughts. And then these emotions end up informing our behavior. And we can also see it in a reverse form, although that may not be the major idea of CBT. From the lesson we had yesterday, having looked at the HPA axis, the dynamics of how the central nervous system and our endocrine system, the coordination between the hypothalamus, the adrenal glands, the pituitary gland, all this process, causes certain reactions, our sympathetic nervous system, sending information, a call to action, and how the endocrine system through the adrenal glands will release the stress hormones and all that. We get to understand that our feelings, our emotions, whether we feel angry, whether we feel upset, and all that also go on to inform how we are interpreting events. So sometimes it will be that when we feel scared by the situation, by the stressful event, if we feel upset, we feel saddened by the information, the events, the person, the situation, the stimulus that is stressful to us, those feelings would influence our thoughts, because with the feeling that is negative, we'll end up thinking negative thoughts. So it would be our feelings also influencing our thoughts, which end up affecting or informing our behavior. So this is the process, your thoughts influencing your feelings, and how you feel determining how you respond or how you behave. So the flight, the fight, the freeze states that we talked about. So the behavior is dependent on the feelings, which is informed by the thoughts. And as I mentioned, could also go in the reverse, where your feelings, first of all, because sometimes in reflex actions, which we see in the fight flight mode, the body's physiological reaction would probably come first before you even get to think about whatever is happening. So it could be the feelings influencing the thoughts that led to a particular behavior. And the idea of CBT is expressed in these three dimensions. That usually we'll feel stressed, we'll feel that we are stressed, we'll go through distress, anxiety, depression, and all that because we have a negative view of ourselves. So having a negative view of yourself, how you think about yourself, being irrational, being negative, I am not good enough, I am not this, I am irresponsible, I cannot do this, I cannot do that, I am not capable as compared to others. The negative view you have of yourself would make you feel or go through distress. And the negative view of the future, where some people, so one of the symptoms of depression is a sense of hopelessness, no motivation to do anything. And as I mentioned in the first lesson, depression could be an end result of chronic stress. So when we go through distress, when we go through chronic stress, one of the things that may be informing that is because we have a negative view about the future. We have no hope that things can change. That person who is our source of stress cannot change. The dynamics at work will not change. The workload will keep going up and up and up. So there's a negative view of what the future holds for us. And that in itself keeps the cycle of stress going on. And then finally, our negative view of the world and our society, how we interpret people's actions and inactions in a negative, sense, irrational thoughts about how, people's what people's intentions are when they are dealing with us and all that. So negative view of self, negative view of future, and the negative view of the society or our world could be informing our stress and our stress related conditions or problems. So CBT is saying that in helping us to deal with this negative view of self, of the future, and of our society, of our world, then we'll help ourselves to reduce our stress levels, even though we may still face those same stressful events. And this is a quote by Aaron Beck, a major figure when it comes to cognitive behavior therapy. His therapy approach, his technique under CBT, which is the cognitive therapy. He says that cognitive therapy seeks to relieve psychological tensions by correcting misconceptions. So misconceptions and self-signals, and by correcting erroneous beliefs, we can put an end to excessive reactions. So those reactions, physiological reactions of stress, which, in itself sometimes are out of the ordinary. They are not needed, they are unnecessary. Sometimes the event is not real. Just by imagining it, we go through all the cycle of stress hormones being released and our muscle tensions and contractions and heart rate going high and all that. So all the cycle that goes on, those reactions, the stress reactions, the stress responses are excessive, and that is what brings us the problems. So he says that with cognitive therapy, the idea is to correct all those misconceptions, subconscious and conscious, and self signals, those triggers, and erroneous beliefs. If we are able to correct all those misconceptions, erroneous beliefs, and irrational thought patterns, then we would end the excessive reactions. So at the end of the day, the techniques we'll look at, you see that if we apply them, it sends a different signal to our what's that name? Sympathetic nervous system. where it would literally be saying that that reaction of releasing a lot of these stress hormones, is not needed. The stress response is not needed. You are going too much. I'm calm. I'm changing my view of the situation. So you don't need to, uh, exaggerate the situation, that kind of thing. And it sends information to our parasympathetic nervous system. As I mentioned yesterday, that is the calming, the calming, side of our autonomous nervous system, our autonomic nervous system. So basically, that is what CBT is telling us. What are some of the CBT inspired techniques that we can use in our everyday interactions to help reduce our stress levels? The first one we talk about is cognitive reframing. Cognitive reframing. And cognitive reframing, as the reframing word suggests, you are changing how you interpret something, whatever stressor it is. If it's at the workplace and maybe it's the workload that you have, that is your stressor. Um, re, re, Reorganizing your interpretation of whose intention it is that you are getting that workload. They don't like me, or they don't appreciate my effort, and therefore any stupid work they want to give it to me and all that. Adjusting those ways of thinking is cognitive reframing. So you look at you try to identify what are some of the things that when I think about in relation to my workload, in relation to my boss, in relation to this particular subject, that anytime I just think about the fact that I'm going for this class, I begin to feel tensed up. Anytime the exam for this particular subject is coming, I begin to feel tensed up. Think about those things that anytime you begin to think about the subjects, those thoughts that come to you, those beliefs about the subjects that come to you, and then change how you are thinking about the subject, change how you are thinking about the workload, about your superior. So this an example for cognitive reframing. So you have an event. For some people have body related stresses. So it's just the fact that they have gained weight and people are talking about it. They want to lose weight, but they are not losing weight. That is their source of stress. That is their source of distress. Just the fact that they can't just sleep, based on the fact that they are doing whatever they can, and it seems like they are still not losing weight. And they have a self-image problem. They are not unable to accept themselves. So one of the key things is to accept yourself first of all, in trying to avoid that event becoming a stressor that keeps you, in a lot of tension. So this person, in terms of their thoughts, the dysfunctional thoughts will say that I am failing. It is a failure. I'll never be able to lose weight. I had better give up trying to lose weight. So they've tried different methods, and it seems they are not gaining or losing weight. They keep gaining the weight. So usually what would happen is that people would want to give up. You would want to say that, oh, it seems this thing is not worth it. I would rather give up trying to lose weight. The consequence is that you reduce your effort. You will not, try all the exercise and all the routines that you were doing to try to lose weight. So the consequence is negative because of the thoughts that you had, where you have drawn a hasty conclusion that you are a failure, the methods are not working, and therefore you can never lose weight. So you see the consequence, which is negative. Now, a functional thought, a more rational way of looking at things, reframing the cognition behind the consequence. You'd rather say, well, it's not a failure, but just a setback. So this is just a setback. It's difficult to lose weight, and that is the reality. It doesn't take a day to lose weight, just as it didn't take a day to gain, excess weight. So it's difficult to lose weight, but not impossible. I have done it before and I'll do it again. And the I have done it before will be in relation to other things that seemed impossible in the beginning, but you were able to overcome it through consistency and persistence. So apply that here, reframe what is informing your hatred, what is informing your discomfort at that particular workplace or in that interpersonal relationship or whatever it is. Think through whatever thoughts, whatever interpretations, whatever misconceptions, whatever beliefs are making you, upset all the time, and sit down, take a cue, write them down. You can write them down. So through journaling. So when you go through the day and you come back home, you can write the things down. So what happened in the day? What made me upset? What informed that decision? Okay, how can I change it the next time? As the person is talking to me, how can I reframe, how I am interpreting whatever they are saying, rather than saying that here they go again with all their, hatred for me, all their jealousy and all that. So at the end of the day, that thinking, that thoughts that is going on in your mind will cause you to really respond to them in a negative way, when probably what they were saying was not anything that should upset you. So cognitive reframing is important. And the more you do that, changing how you are interpreting whatever stressor is coming to you is very important. It's also called cognitive restructuring. So you are restructuring how you think or interpret situations. The structure is being changed into a more positive one. Then we have imaginal disputation, where you imagine different aspects of the situations that cause you to be distressed. So if it is usually when you are sitting in a car and you feel tensed up, especially maybe if the driver is driving at a faster pace, or if it is at night and all that, that is your source of stress. Or when you are walking through, a neighborhood where there seems to be some gangsters, so to speak, over there. With imaginal disputation, you want to think through and imagine scenarios, different scenarios. So if you imagine a scenario where, as you were walking through that neighborhood, somebody attacked you, one of the gangsters pulled out a knife, it will send information to your sympathetic nervous system, that there's danger at hand, and all the whole process of stress response will begin to kick in. Although that event is not happening, it's not real, but that thought, that scenario you have imagined is what is causing the stress response to set out. So you imagine other situations rather than the negative and dysfunctional situations. So instead of, focusing on those possibilities where you will be attacked, where your boss will shout on you, where you would have an accident, in imaginal disputation, you now refocus your attention. So having identified that whenever I imagine this situation happen, then I begin to feel tensed up. The examination, whenever I imagine that, in the exam room, I am unable to answer any question, it begins to make me tense up. As I'm doing my revision, I'm not able to even focus and all that. So you readjust the imagined situations to a more positive one. Imagine a situation where you are sitting in the exam room and you are calm and you are responding to the questions, and you have done it and you are done and you are happy. So that the scenarios we imagine are very important in imaginal disputation. So you dispute the negative scenarios by imagining more positive ones. As the person is talking to you and, you know, uh, they are not, helping. It seems they are stepping on your dignity and all that, rather than, letting your mind race to a scenario where you are slapping them, or you walk out on them, or you shout on them, the mind, because of the stress response, the need to fight, the need to fight and defend yourself, which is a physiological response. The feelings component. So here, the feelings will be informing the thoughts. So it's like you are raging within, and then the negative thoughts begin to kick in, and what you should do and how you should attack this person and all that. So you refocus as much as possible. It's difficult, but with consistent practice, you are able to get out of it. So you refocus and rather imagine situations or scenarios where you have told this person that I'm not comfortable with this discussion. Let's talk about it later. Imagine such scenarios. And at the end of the day, those scenarios you are imagining will begin to send information. So the brain is always picking information based on how our body senses are, and how we are perceiving through our five senses. So the information will be sent that, okay, since there's something opposite happening, and once that information is sent of a good and more positive, more helpful way of handling the situation, you'd realize that naturally your tension begins to drop a little, because the parasympathetic nervous system will be kicking in to establish the calm and bring that equilibrium, the establishing homeostasis when it comes to the body, bringing equilibrium, so that you'll not be excessively tensed up and stressed out and all that. So imaginal disputation is very important. So we have an example here where, so in the first instance, how will I cope with all this? I will never get it done. So this person is looking at the workload at hand, and in their thoughts, they've imagined, so to speak, how they would go through this whole day trying to get all this thing fixed up. And the imagined scenario, as it were, is a scenario where, thinking through it, they were not able to get it done. So it's a quick process of running through, picturing the whole scenario, and then you realize that, no, I can't get it done, and then, oh no, I can't get it done, and that does it. So reduce the effort. In the second scenario, you have, this is too hard. What's the point in trying? So this person is looking at what tasks they need to do, this assignment they need to do, and just, sometimes even when we have the questions being given to us, as the teacher is reading out the question, you are just imagining how you solve all this, and in your mind, the end result is that you were not able to solve it. So what's the point in even trying after imagining different scenarios of working around it, and I couldn't solve it? And then the final situation, which is a more rational way, is, it's really busy this week. I'll get important jobs done first. So this is really a combination of the cognitive reframing or restructuring and the imaginal disputation. And you see that the two are running through. With a kind of cognition that is happening here, and the imagining of the scenarios surrounding what should be done. In the first two instances, they are limiting. So you are ending up not putting in effort because you feel that this is something you cannot achieve. In the third instance, this person acknowledges that it's really a busy week. So acknowledging that there's a lot to do, but in reframing the thoughts, they say that I'll get important jobs done first. Why was this conclusion drawn? Because in looking at the whole thing and imagining different scenarios, it's more positive in examining that scenario, that possibility where you are able to do the important ones first, and then you push the least important ones towards the end, so that in any case, although I may still not be able to finish up everything, I would have done the important ones. So looking at our life in that way is very important. If it is workload, which of them are important? So more like drawing up a scale of preference or an order of merit. where you put the most important, what follows until the least important, so that you can tackle the most important ones. And the idea is that when you are able to imagine more positive solutions to the problem, more positive alternatives to the problem. And I talk about solution-oriented thinking in one of my lessons uh, that you'd find in the videos here. So solution-oriented thinking. So imagining that scenario where, although this is a busy week, if I focus on doing the important things, I can see myself finishing by Friday, and by the weekend, I can tackle the least important one. So that's how imaginal disputation happens. You think of scenarios which are negative, and you see how it is inducing or causing you to be tensed up and stressed and feel under pressure, and then you refocus by imagining more positive situations, more helpful or healthy situations where you are traveling and you arrive safely, where you are setting off to a certain place through the night, and you imagine going through the night safely and arriving and all that, rather than focusing on a situation where maybe there's an accident or the car has broken down on the way and all that. That fuels your stress levels even before you set out on the journey. And finally, practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness is a broad subject on its own, but these are basic things that we can do in our everyday life. So mindful seeing, mindfulness is about keeping yourself grounded in the now. So how you can maintain focus on the here and now, so to speak. And it's about letting your thoughts be focused on nothing, so to speak, but things that are positive, things that are healthy, things that are soothing to the soul. So mindful seeing, as you are going to work, you can look out the window and observe certain not the negatives, not the bad things happening, but just seeing certain things that you may not have paid attention to, the birds flying, the music being played around, how structures are, and looking at it from a more positive dimension. As you are sitting at the workplace, you have a flower on your table or somewhere, looking at it and observing. You are not really allowing negative thoughts to come in, just observing the beauty of that thing. And it could be a dress that someone is wearing, looking at the dress and admiring the beauty of the dress, the patterns of the dress, the design, and all that. So mindful seeing is about making your viewing experience help you to reduce your stress in everyday activities, looking at things that may not be so significant, but they are beautiful in themselves. Looking at nature, sometimes you can make conscious efforts to go out by the sea, by the river, uh, by the beach, the forest. You just want to observe, you just want to go seeing, and it really helps. It really helps. As the person is talking to you, you may feel that anger is boiling up, but there's something probably that is about their eye, that is admirable, about their hair that is admirable, the dress they are wearing that's admirable. You just focus your attention on that thing, and just take in that beauty of the thing. It takes your mind off the negativity, the negative energy that may be coming from whatever discussion that is going on. So you are listening. That takes us to the next mindful technique. So mindful listening. So you are listening, you are paying attention, but you are listening with empathy. And combining that with mindful seeing, observing things that are more positive about the person, takes you away from the negativity that may be surrounding that discussion. It's difficult, but the constant practice really helps. It gets to a point where things don't really get to you that much. You don't get upset, unnecessarily, so to speak. And in mindful listening, when you are listening to someone, you listen with empathy. You are listening not to judge. Unfortunately, most of the time we draw conclusions before the person is even done talking. But with mindful listening, you want to maintain your peace. You want to maintain your sanity. You just want to listen without judging, listen without filtering through what the person is saying and drawing any conclusions. And you just want to understand, listening to understand. And as you are listening, you can be focusing on what the person is saying and be looking at it in a more positive light. So you'll be bringing in the cognitive reframing and then the imaginal disputation, looking at it in a more positive light. So you are listening in a more positive light as much as you can. And that is mindful listening. It puts you in the here and the now. It focuses your attention on serenity rather than the negativity that may surround the stressor. Then we have mindful feeling. This is about touch. Sometimes as you are sitting there and you feel that there's so much tension boiling up, it could be maybe something on your desk. You pick it up, and just feel the texture, feel the texture. Just feel the texture, the touch of it, the mind, your focus is on the feeling, the soothing feeling that comes with, that thing. If it's the table, whatever it is, if it's a round object you put in your hand and be rolling, and focus your attention, focus your mind on the sensation, the feeling that you are getting, you know, it really helps as you are sitting waiting for an interview session and you feel that you have under some stress and distress, your tension is coming up, just the chair, your hand rubbing the chair and then feeling the sensation. It really helps. It evokes the parasympathetic nervous system and its activities of calming you down and restoring, equilibrium in your system. So mindful feeling is about touch, an object, anything that you can feel, touch and feel with your hand, whatever it is. It could be, your leg. Sometimes you may want to just remove your shoe in the office so that your foot will be on the ground and you'll be, rubbing the floor little by little and be feeling. So it's all about the mind, focusing the mind on the sensation of whatever you are touching and feeling. When you get back home, you feel stressed up and tensed up or angry, as you are opening the doorknob, you feel the knob. This is not something you would usually do, but you feel the knob as you are opening the door, you feel the sensation of opening it, mindful of the how the movement is going, and just allowing yourself to embrace the beauty behind how a door can be opened and closed and the design of it and all that, taking that in. That is mindful feeling. It may seem trivial, but it is really doing something physiologically to your system and helping to calm you down or reduce whatever stress there is, As I mentioned, I believe in the previous lesson, sometimes our stress responses are not based on what is actually happening. It's not reality. Sometimes it's just imaginal. Sometimes it's just psychological, in nature. So in helping us to reduce our stress levels, some of these things may be trivial, but they are really doing a lot in managing your stresses and managing your stress levels without you, knowing much about what is happening. Then we have mindful tasting. So this is where you'd see some people like chewing gum. So there's this former Manchester United coach, Sir Alex Ferguson, who was always chewing gum, and there are benefits to chewing gum. It's a whole therapy on its own in reducing your stress. So as you are chewing the gum, the chewing of the gum is not just for the fun of chewing gum. That's why it's not about chewing as many gum as you can chew. One person can have gum in the mouth and chew it. The taste of it is gone, but they keep chewing it. The mindful chewing of the gum is about focusing your attention on just the sensation. So the taste of the gum, the what feeling you are getting in your mouth, so to speak. And if you are eating, mindfulness eating, uh, you are taking your breakfast. As you sip it, you focus your mind on the taste of the tea and how amazing it is that it has a different taste from other, maybe porridge or something else. So it's like in everything that you are doing, you are mindful in a more peaceful and serene way about the beauty of whatever is happening, so that you embrace the beauty of that experience. So mindful tasting, you could help yourself with some gum if that is something you not so sweet a gum, but just to keep yourself reduced in terms of your stress levels. And when you are eating, when you are drinking water, just be mindful of the experience. Enjoy the experience of that particular thing you are tasting. you know then we have mindful smelling, which is about, smell, the sense of smell. So these are the five senses. So the mindful smelling could be, getting some nice perfume, that or a flower that has a sweet scent, a nice scent to it, in your room, by your desk in the office, and taking in the nice smell, the nice aroma, so to speak, of whatever it is. And sometimes it's just about going out to a green space, where there are trees, where there are um, sweet scented flowers, and just taking in that experience of a good smell or a good scented environment. And that helps, in stabilizing the mind and the racing thoughts that everyday activities bring us, face to face with. So these are mindful techniques relating to the five senses. And it's simple, something that you can be doing every day, just to help minimize how your system, your body is responding to the stresses around you. So as part of mindfulness, we have mindfulness meditation, which is a whole, area of um, mindfulness on its own. And you can watch some videos on how to do meditation. But the whole idea of mindfulness meditation is finding a quiet space, a quiet place, whether it's early before you go to work or before you sleep. So usually if you do this while before sleeping, or before you go and take your bath to sleep, you realize that you have a good night's sleep, which you usually not get a good night's sleep when you are going through stress. So this meditation is really helpful before you set off to work early in the morning. So as you can see in here, very quiet space, whatever posture that can help you to feel relaxed. And so this more like a yoga position. And they have their hand, this way. So whatever you can do to make you feel relaxed. And the idea is that as you are sitting there, as you are folded your legs or whichever posture you are in, your mind should just be focused on nothing. So don't think about anything. Just let your mind be stable. Just let your mind be stable. That's why the place should be quiet. The place should be quiet. Find a quiet space, a quiet space. If your area is a very noisy space, that means you can do this maybe early at dawn, at a time where people have not woken up. Just a space of time where you can be quiet and allow your mind to just roam without you interrupting it with any thoughts that are negative or whatever it is. You can also use some positive phrases. So as you are quiet, breathing in slowly, breathing out slowly. can be rubbing your fingers. I am good. I am intelligent. I am peaceful. I can do many things. So if you are someone, if you're a Christian, you can pick some biblical, quotations that are about how you are more than a conqueror in Christ Jesus. Whatever it is that can help you to stabilize your mind on your capacity, on your ability, and just speak peaceful things to yourself. And this is something that a lot of people do, some with a religious connotation, some without necessarily having a religious connotation. But the idea of meditation, mindfulness meditation, is to help you stay grounded, help you to focus your mind on, all these five senses, feeling a sense of serenity, the beauty of nature, the beauty of having, life, and experiencing the peace that could come. And this mindfulness meditation is really helpful. So these are just a few things that I believe we can do as we help ourselves to maintain a more balanced stress level that will not take us into distress, and in our daily engagements on and off, work, school, and all that, we would be able to manage our stress levels well. I wish you all the best, and in another lesson, I'll talk about some other techniques that we can use that may not be inspired by this cognitive behavior therapy. So once again, the cognitive behavior therapy is focused on how we can work on our thoughts, our cognitions, and how this will influence our emotions or our feelings and change our behavior. So negative ways of thinking, irrational thoughts, misconceptions and beliefs and all that influence our feelings, whether they are negative or positive, and then influence our behavior. And I mentioned that it will also be your feelings. The physiological stress response, as we discussed earlier in the first lesson, could cause you to be upset, frightened, and all that. And that can affect how you are interpreting whatever situation that is going on. And then at the end of the day, it affects your behavior or action that you take. So we need to practice some of these techniques, and it will really help us. Cognitive reframing, imaginal disputation, and practicing mindfulness using our five senses and all that I have said. Thank you so much for joining, and have a good day.